team talking sports.
What is going on, football fans? Back at it with another New York Giants video. And in this video, I'm going to talk about the biggest pending free agent for the New York Giants, that, of course, being Leonard Williams. Williams last year had a tremendous year for the New York Giants, right? I actually posted the stats on Twitter, but I wanted to pull these stats up for you guys. And there's no doubt about it. He definitely was instrumental in that defense exceeding expectations. Some people may point to that it was coverage sacks, whatever it may be, but the numbers speak for themselves. Going into the year, Leonard Williams' career high, I think, was 7.5 with sacks. We all knew that he was really good with pressures the year before. From an interior defensive line standpoint, I think he had the most pressures in all of football, according to PFF. These are the numbers. These are the cold, hard facts with Leonard Williams in comparison to the other players on the New York Giants. He was first in quarterback knockdowns with 17. Second was 6. Triple the amount. He was first in quarterback pressures with 42. Second was 16. Nearly triple the amount. First in sacks with 11.5. Second was 4. You're getting the picture. Nearly triple the amount. And first in hurries with 12. Second was 6. So there's no doubt about it. Leonard Williams last year, and we could argue what his motivation may have been on a one-year deal, knowing that he was coming up on free agency, performed way beyond expectations. A lot of people going into the year thought that it was way too much money to be giving him $16.1 million on the franchise tag, and they thought that Dave Gettleman did a horrible job in trading to acquire him in a year that we weren't contending to make the playoffs. Well, Leonard Williams made Dave Gettleman look a lot smarter last year, and he was arguably the best player in the defense. If it wasn't him, it was James Bradbury, but he was second. And for a team that struggles at getting after the quarterback, he is far and away the most talented player at doing that on this roster. In addition to that, I believe, and I thought this going into the year, it's why I thought he'd have a breakout season, not 11.5 sacks breakout, but I thought he'd have a really good year. He fits the scheme. He's a guy that's capable of playing both on the inside and out. You could play him as a 3-4 DN. You could play him as a 4-3 DN. You could play him a bit in the middle. Very versatile, gets pressure up the middle, and was very valuable for this team. Which begs the question, what are the New York Giants going to do with Leonard Williams? And right now, if you look at PFF, if you look at all these things, everybody's saying he's one of the top 3 or 4 overall free agents available on the market when you factor in age and you factor in his production last year. And he's always been a good player, but now the numbers are starting to back it up. And, a lot of people have him, anywhere between $18 and $20 million on a 4-year deal, which got me thinking outside the box what the New York Giants could do here. And you may call me crazy, and I'm going to jump into the numbers, but in my opinion, the New York Giants would be best advised to franchise tag Leonard Williams for a second time. And I'm going to explain why, and then I'm going to jump into some of the figures. I'm just pulling up some of my notes. We all know as of now that the cap is projected to go down for the first time in forever. The cap last year was $198 million. Well, with the cap going down, the franchise tags goes down, right? And of course, you'd be franchise tagging Leonard Williams for a second time. But with the tags going down, and there's projections that are out of a $175 million salary cap, it could be 180. But if it's 180, it's not going to be that much different than what I'm about to show you. The New York Giants would actually be saving money by franchise tagging him for the second time, and I'm going to explain why exactly here. Here is the rule. I first wanted to read this to you guys because, of course, he was franchise tagged last year. The franchise tag pays a player close to market value for 1 year but provides no further guarantees. The tag becomes an advantage if a player remains healthy and valuable enough that team feels compelled to use it multiple times. The value of the second tag is 120% of the first. So that's where we're going to stop. We don't care about the third year. We care about the second year. And with the decreased cap, with that will come decreased franchise tags, right? Last year, Leonard Williams was franchise tagged as a defensive tackle, in which we paid him $16.126 million. Okay? 20% of $16.126 million, if you tack that on, equals $19.35 million. And generally, the salary cap goes up by about 7%. So in a normal year, with the cap increasing, he would have cost a little bit of probably over $20 million to franchise tag for a second time. But it is not a normal year. Now, a defensive tackle in 2021, and this is projections off a $175 million cap, would be $13.3 million. Now, of course, he wouldn't get that. He would get 120% on top because it would be the second year franchise tagging him. But 120% on top of 13.3. And like I said, maybe it's 180. And if it's 180, maybe it's $14 million. But regardless, 20% on top of $13.3 million is $15.96 million, which is actually less than what he got last year as a defensive tackle, in which he got 16.1. And like I said, these are all projections, but you would figure it would be about a break-even rate. The New York Giants would be essentially paying him the same amount of money that they did last year. Now, one thing that you could argue, he may very well qualify to be a defensive end. You could actually argue that that may be probable. But even if he were to qualify as a defensive end, if you go up to the chart there on the third column, last year the defensive ends made $17.78 million on the franchise tag, which is why Williams fought to get that. It was a near $2 million raise. He didn't end up getting it. This year he very, very well could, coming off a 11.5 sack season, and I'm sure that he could probably show that he played more in the end. But even if that were the case, this year it drops from 17.7 to 15.4. Tack on 120% to that, it would cost the New York Giants $18.48 million if he qualified as a defensive end, which is around what his market rate is going to be. Now, here's some of the dilemmas that could come from doing something like this. If you were to franchise tag him, which according to that chart, I think it would not exceed even maybe 19 if the cap was 180, and it doesn't sound like it's going to be much higher than that. That's about his market rate. And I think the New York Giants are making out on that deal because it's only a one-year commitment. Of course, if you could get him as a DT, you break about even. It's about $16 million a piece. Now, the risk with this is Leonard Williams could hold out, like a lot of players do when you franchise tag him. But when push comes to shove, you look at Dak Prescott last year. He held out. He ended up playing for the franchise tag. And in the end, I would guess that Leonard Williams would play. Some of the benefits for Leonard Williams, okay? You think about Leonard Williams right now. He hit the open market at the wrong time. The salary cap, if it's going to decrease from about $200 million to about $180, that's a significant decrease. That's 10% less of your pay when you hit the open market. Leo may be better off playing on a one-year deal a la a second-year franchise tag and showing that he can produce again and then hitting the open market when the salary cap increases and he gets a 4 or 5 year deal at a lot of money. It gives the New York Giants another year to make Leonard Williams prove that he's the guy. Now, of course, this is out of the box thinking. The New York Giants may very well not do this, but it was something I thought about when I woke up today. And in my opinion, if you could get Leo back for $18.5 million on only a one-year commitment or $19 million off a second franchise tag, even if he qualifies as a defensive end, I think it's something that Dave Gettleman and the New York Giants need to explore. Making him a 4 or 5 year commitment on $18 to $20 million per is a lot. It straps you a lot more going forward with guys on this roster that you may have to commit long-term contracts to, like Saquon Barkley, like Daniel Jones. Of course, Leonard Williams goes out there and produces. He earns the money. You keep him long-term. But was last year a fluke? Well, when you do this, you give him the opportunity to prove it again. And like I said, if he can prove it again, it actually works out in the best interest of the player. I've said multiple times that I think a lot of players in this market are going to look to sign one-year deals, being that, with the salary cap being reduced. And we don't know all the answers yet. We'll get that answer in about a month. But I wanted to go over that because I haven't seen anybody talking about the possibility of the New York Giants franchise tagging Leonard Williams for a second time. If the cap remained the same, I wouldn't advise doing it. But with the cap being reduced, it may be in the best interest to do that. Also, if you weren't going to do it with Leonard Williams, you could do it with Dalvin Tomlinson. If you go back to that chart, a one-year commitment for Tomlinson, maybe a little bit above his market value. I'm seeing 11 or 12. I think for a DT, it was about 13.3. So they could go that route. But I think it makes a lot more sense for Leonard Williams, especially if you could get him below market value, and being that it's only a one-year commitment. But I wanted to get that up, and in my opinion, it's what I would do if I was the New York Giants general manager. As always, guys, if you liked what you watched, please subscribe. Drop a comment. Maybe give me a little thumbs up. Cheers.